Thank you.
Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Alexandria Griffith, and I am part of the ADRC team at the California Department of Aging. Today, facilitating with me is Amanda Price. Thank you for taking the time to be a part of today's ADRC Friday Roundtable series. As speakers introduce themselves today, we will use a visual description. I am an American of Filipino descent with dark brown hair. Today, I'm wearing a floral black shirt. Thanks to ADRC teammate Mylene Ikmat for her support running Zoom today. And please say hello to the rest of the ADRC team, Wilson Tam, David Morikawa, Jeanette Fong, Rosie Carvajal, Carol DeAndres, and Amanda Price. Also, a little reminder, we are seeking promising practice submissions. All are encouraged to take part in this first release of promising practices by sharing your successful program practices that have contributed to developing person-centered methods and establishing a no wrong door system. The first quarterly submission deadline is April 22nd, 2022. More details can be found in the ADRC update email that was sent out today. Thank you, and now I will hand it off to Amanda.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. So I'm Amanda Price, and today I am wearing a blue plaid button-down shirt, and I am Anglo, middle-aged with long blonde gray hair. Just a few logistics to start before we get going today. We will have a poll or two, and then we'll hear from two partner ADRCs. There will also be breakout rooms, so you can all connect with each other during the hour today. You're able to unmute and mute yourselves throughout the hour for questions, and chat is also enabled, so please start using chat, say hello. If you're dialing in, please dial *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. Zoom live transcript is available, so you can access that by clicking on the live transcript button on the Zoom toolbar. We are recording this roundtable, and the recording will be available on the ADRC library tab on the partner and providers website after today. If you're having any technical issues with Zoom, please email adrc@aging.ca.gov. And with that, let's start with our first poll. Alex, could you start us off?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Our first poll question: what organization are you part of? A AAA, ILC, other ADRC partner, other organizations serving older adults or disabled populations, or not applicable? The second question is, if you had a time machine, would you rather travel forward in time or back in time? You have the option of selecting forward, back, both, neither. The present is perfect. So we'll give a moment for participants to get their choices in. Just a few more, and I will end the poll now. It looks like the majority of us are from AAAs at 37%, and the next amount are from other organizations, and that's at 27%. And the third in line is, the third majority is from ILCs at 23%. And for our fun question, it looks like the majority of people would like to travel both forward and back at 40%. And then it's actually even across after that, forward, back, and neither are all at 20%. So thank you everyone for participating in our poll today. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you. Love it. That's great. So today's topic is about protocol development for ADRCs, and a special thanks to San Francisco ADRC and Alameda County ADRC for making some remarks today. And to get us started on the topic of system integration protocols, please welcome San Francisco ADRC's Cindy Kaufman. Cindy is the Deputy Director for Community Services at the San Francisco Department of Disability and Aging Services. Cindy, thank you for sharing some of San Francisco's successful practices. I can't see you on my panel, but hopefully you are here, and then I can advance your slides.
That would be great, Amanda. Yes, I am
Thank
here.
you.
I was late and I thought, uh-oh, I'm going to make people very nervous. So I am very excited to be here. So if you could go just to my slide deck. So as I'm introducing, for San Francisco, I am very excited to be able to share some of the things that we do, both around how we share information as well as doing warm handoffs. So we can go to the first slide.
I am sharing, but it stopped, so I'm going to reshare. Just one moment. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Just paused.
So I introduced myself. I also am a 63-year-old Caucasian woman, short, very curly hair that's rapidly turning white. And I am I go by she, her pronouns, and very excited to be here. And we'll catch up. I will start talking though, because I know we have some limited time.
Yeah. And Alex, if you can share your screen, I'm trying here, but it's not letting me anymore. So
it's okay.
Thank you.
I think we all have patience around platforms these days. So I think it's really important to understand just kind of level setting for the group of the structure of our ADRC, as well as our department structure, the Department of Disability and Aging Services. So we have two sides of the house. Actually, we have direct service programs, which include in-home supportive services, adult protective services, public conservator, public guardian, public administrator. And then my side of the department is the community services. And the first of those is the Office of Community Partnerships. And the Office of Community Partnership really holds all of our AAA funded contracts, plus many that are not funded through AAA services through Older Americans Act. We have over 280 contracts across 75 community-based organizations, and in order to partner and meet the needs of San Francisco. These include a multitude of services based on Older Americans Act, but also much, much more that we use our general funds for. For every service that is funded by Older Americans Act, we also try to create parity in the disability community, as well as meeting the needs of a very culturally diverse community. And toward this end, every 4 years, we do a robust community needs assessment and engagement to help us determine the gaps and the needs, which then inform a 4-year service and allocation plan. And then the other programs that I oversee is the Benefits and Resource Hub. And that consists of really 3 units. There's the Medi-Cal and CalFresh eligibility unit, which is truly, it's not the entire Medi-Cal CalFresh population, but truly focused on older adults and adults with disabilities. Then we also have the County Veterans Service Office, which is also a connection to benefits for veterans and their families for all of the complicated benefits that they are entitled to. And then the last is integrated intake. And so if you could go to the next slide. Integrated intake it partners hand in hand with all of our direct service programs, as well as those community partners. And it is staffed by social workers. It is our one-stop shop for San Francisco for all inquiries and services for older adults and people with disabilities. They provide information as well as referrals for services throughout San Francisco. In addition, they also, the social workers provide options counseling, as well as doing the intakes for all of the direct service programs, with the exception of the PG, PC, and PA, the public guardian, conservator, and administrator. But we're in the process of incorporating those as well. And the supervisors in that unit have created detailed manuals, including definitions of different programs, eligibility criteria, assessments, and documentation procedures that are used throughout by staff, for both incoming staff as well as current staff, giving them some consistency in provision of services. So the integrated intake unit is really our link between our AAA and our two core partners in the ADRC world. And our other two partners are the Independent Living Resource Center of San Francisco and the Community Living Fund program, as well as our extended partners. The core partners provide the no wrong door approach to information and assistance. But with that said, partners specialize in certain resources. For instance, integrated intake specializes in information and referrals across all services for all of our contracts, as well as resources beyond our providers and our contractors. Intake also provides complex assessments and then assistance in applying for needed services, anything from IHSS to home delivered meals. Independent Living Resource Center in San Francisco specializes in information referral services, assistive technology education and support, peer counseling, many avenues of advocacy, system change, housing. They also do housing counseling, which in San Francisco is just critical, and then benefits and employment planning as well. And then our third partner is the Community Living Fund, and they actually specialize in our transitions. They transition people out of and then prevent the placement of people into institutional care by providing options for where and how they receive assistance. They also provide care and support through coordinated transitional case management and purchase of services. We have been partnering with them since about 2008 to provide these services, and it's been very successful. So then in addition to the core partners, San Francisco ADRC also has significant network of extended partners, with I would say the primary one being the Age and Disability Resource Centers, which you will notice the acronym is all ADRC, which can be very confusing when I'm talking to all of you. But the Age and Disability Resource Centers are, if you look at our main ADRC as the hub, the Age and Disability Resource Centers are the spokes to that hub, and they are in every district within San Francisco, and they are basically serve as mini ADRCs. So then, in addition to those folks, extended partners also include the rest of our contracted providers, and so it extends the available services to include such specializations like case management, meal services, home modifications, legal services, rental subsidies, and many more. So then next slide. So that is the lay of our land and our structure. And so in order to create the service linkage and tracking those things, we have a management information system that both our department and all of our partners use, this one database. It gives us access to the service deliverables across all the programs that we fund, and also gives us some pretty robust data that we then use to identify new services, submit RFPs, identify areas that are potentially underserved. And in addition to this, it also tracks within integrated intake the enhanced information and assistance, options counseling, and short-term coordination work. And then within that, we have an integrated intake module that allows us to submit applications for those transitional care services with the Community Living Fund, as well as home delivered meals and case management. And then those applications are electronically submitted to community partners that provide the service and utilize a shared wait list through the database. Then in addition to that, we have the Age and Disability Resource Coordinator, and the coordinator works with all of the Age and Disability Resource Centers to provide support and share and ensure continuity across all the districts of the city. In addition to the coordinator, we've also created an Age and Disability Resource Collaborative, which includes all of our core partners of the ADRC. And so we work with both the collaborative and the coordinator to ensure training, support, and consistency across all the programs. And then in addition to this, through our AAA services, we've established work groups that service work groups with stakeholders in the community, and they include a provider work group, which includes nutrition services, all the folks that that provide nutrition, legal services, IHS task force, community service centers, the ADRC collaborative, and well as some others. And then in addition to that, we have community partnerships that are really focused on the needs of specific ethnic populations, as well as the San Francisco Tech Council with an obvious focus on technology, palliative care work group, and then our biggest is probably and most robust is the Age and Disability Friendly San Francisco work that we do. Now, these are all the current ways we share information. We share through getting together. We share through the database. We are able to identify the needs and provide some of these warm handoffs. And then a key thing is truly being able to track the services that are provided both directly and through our contracts. And then the last thing I will talk about is one of the things I am most excited about that we are doing is an online resource directory. And we've put out a request for proposals for this directory, and we are in the process of that, finalizing that now, and it is for older adults and people with disabilities. And the scope of this directory is pretty broad. It's meant to provide resources and services to all residents, including older adults, well individuals, those with serious illnesses and dementia, people with disabilities, caregivers, service providers, clinicians, hospitals, anybody and everybody. We're truly hoping to improve access to and provision of critical services. Right now we have paper-based directory, which is ancient the second it comes out. And so we're very excited about this. There's going to be two main phases. The first is the directory itself. And then once that is developed, the second is to act as a platform to coordinate and facilitate communication between all of us, between city departments, between CDOs, between the health systems, through this electronic service referral. So more to come on that. It is still several years down the line, but that one I am very excited about. And so those are some of the things we're doing in San Francisco. And I would love, should have a slide that says questions, and I don't. So you can go ahead, Alexandria, you can go ahead and take it down. So, but happy to answer any questions I can.
Thank you, Cindy. And one of the questions I had, which you answered, was really about the timing for your online resource directory. It sounds like it's a major development. So
yeah,
excited to hear more.
Literally, I'm identifying panelists for the RFP even as we speak. So
wow, yeah. So there's a couple questions in chat, and I can read them, or the first one is from Bill. I don't know if you want to just unmute and ask it. Either way.
Oh, thank you. Great presentation. I must say, we have a friend in common in Rio Mercado, who I went and I had a visit of your ADRC about 3 years ago, and was just floored on how wonderful it is. And for people who don't know, it's a decentralized model. Instead of you going to where the ADRC is housed, the ADRC staff are at the Chinatown Senior Center and other centers like that across the county. And I think it's just wonderful to bring the information to the people rather than have the people come to you. And I just think it's a great model. And those who haven't seen it, I really invite you to. One of the things that, looking through an equity lens, that I think is so important, options counseling is wonderful. One of the places that many people stumble is getting through eligibility processes at various governmental agencies, county agencies, community-based nonprofits, and others. Can you say a little bit on how helping people through the eligibility process works? Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, thank you. That is such a great question. And I have to say, we are finalizing our community needs assessment, and that came up consistently around, it is such a complicated system. And so part of what we try to do is, that's part of the reason we've tried to centralize things, is so I mean, it is in the same building more than anything for them to be able to help. But right now, because that was one of the findings in the needs assessment, it is something that for these next 4 years, we are really going to try and take a deeper dive into. We're hoping, because it is complicated though, we're also hoping to increase just plain old customer service in setting reasonable expectations for folks and saying, just putting it out there and giving some people an idea. But we're also hoping the online resource directory will help in some fashion. Because one of the things we're hoping it will do is also, for folks who are tech savvy, ease that process, and then for folks who are not, we will always have live people to answer phones. But I would love to say we've nailed it, and that is something we are absolutely continuing to work on.
Thank you, Cindy. And there's a couple questions too in chat, but I do want to make sure we also get to Alameda's presentation. But I will see if I'll invite Maggie to unmute if you want. She had a question that might be interesting for others to hear as well.
Yeah, hi there. My question was about the second phase of the online directory. You talked about the coordinated communication, and then I was wondering if it would replace your MIS, or how would it coordinate? How would they interface? And it, I don't need great detail. I was just curious. It sounds like some of that is being done through the MIS system, but not in real time. So maybe, maybe this is interesting now, or maybe that's too much detail. So
I will give you a very high level, Maggie. That is
Perfect.
Something that we are really looking at. And as we look at these proposals, part of it is that will be some of our questions of how can you connect? Because our integrated intake already has multiple systems, and I do not want to add one more to that mix. And I want them to be able to talk to each other at the very, very least, or populate from one to the other. So that is something we were looking at as part of what we're looking for that second phase. So it also, I think, will depend on the vendor we choose, the platform we choose.
thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Cindy, for making some remarks about this. I think it's a really interesting vision that San Francisco has and that's executing. So more to come. I know that those of you who are with Cindy or other San Francisco ADRC attendees in the breakout rooms, you can discuss more there in a few moments. In the meantime, and Alex, if you can move to the next slide, I do want to introduce our next ADRC speaker presenter today. Please welcome Jennifer Stevenspierre from the Alameda County ADRC. Jennifer is the Director of the Area Agency on Aging, LPS, and Veterans Services in Alameda County Social Services. And Jennifer will be sharing some additional practices and ideas that have been effective in their ADRC for intake protocols. And Jennifer, thank you for being here today.
I am talking and I am on mute. So thank you for having me. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about our ADRC. We're still in our emerging status. And so hearing how San Francisco, how you're doing it is really encouraging for us and very helpful for us. Bill Pelter and I had an opportunity to meet with City and County of San Francisco to talk about your model as we're moving forward towards designation. And so some of the tips that you gave us were really helpful in some of the directions that we're going in. And what was really encouraging is that, how she explained it, that it started as a grassroots effort and how it has expanded. And it's just really encouraging for us as we're moving forward. And I apologize for my camera because the county has this really fancy setup, but they haven't quite taught me how to make the camera, when I'm looking sideways. And so as I navigate that. All right. And so one of the things, before we change the slide, I just want to make sure that that my presentation, that you kind of understand point of entry with the presentation. I was specifically asked to talk about our service tiers and our navigational, which is only like an entry point into our ADRC. We're still in the process of really building this out. But one of the things that we really wanted to do is to create to be able to align where we could in order to have an entry point to our ADRC. And so if you can take it to the next slide. So just to talk a little bit about Alameda counties, about our configuration. So the requirement is that you have the partnership must be between the Area Agency on Aging and the ILC. Alameda County is unique in that we have 2 ILCs. And so we've been really working with those ILCs to kind of figure out how we're different and how we're the same and how we can meet in the middle. This was an area, and I particularly pointed this out because this was the actual objective that kind of made us come up with our navigational questions and our service tiers, in that we are 3 different entities. Our AAA sits in a county system, and then we have 2 ILCs that are independent. We all 3 have different databases. We all 3 have different intakes. And we all 3 have different ways of how we engage our clients. And so you can only imagine that that was a challenge for us initially. We made an attempt at doing a universal assessment or a universal intake, but it got really complicated really fast, and we're still trying to work through that. But what we wanted to do was 3 basic things. We wanted to make this process cost effective, and we wanted to be prepared that if there was no additional funding, could we maintain the service levels or could we maintain the platform? We wanted to be consistent in how we perform services and how we engage our clients. And we also wanted to be something that was really doable. And so it took some time for us to kind of figure out, like, what does that look like? What does that actually look like? And so we came up with a really simple solution that we say, okay, this is our foundation, and this is something that we can build from. And so the next slide is basically our tiered system. We developed, or we decided to do it in a 3-tier system, and all of this is nothing new. Right? But it was just putting that, formalizing how we would do it. And so the 3-tier system is identifying how do callers engage us when we initially make contact with them. And we defined what each one of these tiers would look like. So tier 1, it is that call that you receive that basically just says, I don't want anything else. Just give me the information that I asked for, very, very specific. And you want to honor what someone is asking you for and what their wishes are. So we call that a tier 1. Basic information and referral, information and assistant. That person may or may not engage us in the future, but we've given them what they've asked for. That kind of like right in line with the person centered, right? Our tier 2 is a little more specific and it's a little more expansive, wherein our 2-tier consumers are asked 5 navigational questions. And these questions are not questions that we made up. We chose these 5 questions because it didn't require for our community partners or our core partners to do new intakes. It didn't require an additional cost, so it fell in line with our cost effectiveness. We already asked these questions, and these, we call them navigational because really you're going to engage the person. You need to know their name, the age, because we are really, the ADRC is, we recognize that the AAA, we deal more with older adults, wherein our ILCs deal more with, a variety of ages, but we do have a 40 to 50% overlap in Alameda County. So the date of birth really kind of narrows down the services where we're sending that person. So for example, we're not going to send an 18-year-old to a program that is 60 and over, for example. We're asking about their veteran status because the veteran status opens up a whole nother benefit. And of course, our veterans is our extended partners because I'm the manager of the Veteran Service Office and I'm constantly working on ways to incorporate ADRC into our veteran program. Are you disabled? Not all consumers who enter our doors, especially for the AAA, are identifying themselves as disabled. So we're specifically being intentional about asking that question. And then where are you located? So that we can be very specific. Alameda County is a big county. We don't want to refer you, if you're in Livermore, we don't want to refer you to Berkeley. And so that was our attempt at of really kind of doing something immediate to be able to align our service delivery. And so based on in the tier 2 also, that is when the caller or the staff are also determining if this person is someone who would benefit from options counseling. And most time they're already doing that. You know, they're already working with the consumer to kind of figure out like, okay, what are you asking us for? What are you saying you want? And how do we get there? So we kind of do it in that approach where, you know, we're really trying to honor that person-centered request. Now, in that counseling session, we may also say, well, you want this, but have you also considered that? So we also are in that options counseling, which is inherent, giving them additional resources or giving them ideas on additional things that they can do. The option counseling also has a follow-up. And so it's very, very distinct, but we also find that we'll move on to the tier 3 consumers, and they receive those same navigational questions. However, you know, they may also receive additional things like an assessment, especially with our ILC partners, and we're still working on this with the AAA, you know, assessments for assistive devices, protective services, mental health capacity. And so those are things that we're doing in a tier 2. And then those are the consumers who may move to what we call, you know, to our short-term service coordination, where we work more, we kind of define that as when you make contact after that options counseling and the follow-up, and that person still needs additional coordination. Care transitions is not here because it's very specific. The tier 1 to 3 can lead to care transitions programs, and that is part of the assessment, but it is how we've kind of tiered out our services. What we're constantly doing is looking at ways to expand this out as we learn more about each other's programs. We do take opportunities to do a lot of cross training so that we're all clear on how we do services and ways that we can integrate what we're doing. Moving forward, one of the things, just kind of like where we currently are, you know, we have selected a database. Just our ILCs already have a database that they use, and the AAA, we did not necessarily have one. We've been fortunate in that we've gotten a lot of feedback from our ILCs, and we've selected Capstone to serve as our database, and we're in the process of building that database out. We were not able to, we don't necessarily have an integrated database at this point, but the great thing with Capstone is that it will allow us to share external portals into our database, and so that we can begin to really implement our protocols and procedures and really be able to do live warm referrals and transfers. We also, Capstone really gave us a really interesting feature in that it has a public facing website. And so we're in the process of building out our public facing ADRC website. And so we're really, really excited about that. A lot of work. And I hear City and County of San Francisco, the work that you've done around the integration, integrated system. And that's what we aspire. We can only aspire to do that at this point. We also are in the process of one of our goals is working towards ADRC hubs throughout the county, and looking at a way to look at local efforts that are happening and ways to align with some of our local efforts. We find that, especially with the AAA and the services that we provide, I have recently been out really touring the programs that the AAA provides and really looking at the service delivery, especially post-COVID, and how the programs have been able to transition service delivery. And one of the things that I quickly realized is that we already have a lot of community-based programs that are doing services very similar to ADRC. And so, you know, that our goal is to align with some of the things that are already happening where they're doing that enhanced information and assistance, you know, the options counseling and the short-term service coordination. One thing that we, in our county, that we really need to highlight and build out and find ways to align is around our care transitions program. But it is one of our goals as we move forward and be designated. We're also wanting to formalize some of our community partners. Like I heard you, Cindy, those when you talked about, like, you already have these relationships that you have with, as just a nature of being contracted with the AAA, you already have these relationships where we're heavily utilizing all of the core partners, different community-based organizations in the community, and that we want to formalize those partnerships. And so we're really looking forward to receiving designation. I think we've made some really great strides to get there. We still have a lot of work to do, but just kind of hearing the work that you've done, Cindy, over in Senate County is very encouraging and really is a role model for us moving forward. So thank you.
Jennifer, thank you. That was really great to hear. And also we have a lot of newly emerging ADRCs and other ADRCs who have been emerging for a while as well. So hearing the development process, I think, is also really helpful for everyone. I will be moving into breakout rooms, I'll just paraphrase Sarah Gross's question just briefly. Jennifer, if you can take some time to answer this one briefly. Are all of your INA calls initially routed through the AAA, or do ILCs follow the same protocol for the calls they receive, basically?
The ILCs follow the same protocol. So no, not all of the calls are routed through the AAA, but because our intakes, and especially for our AAA, we've kind of managed or modeled our intakes after our ILCs and incorporated those 5 navigational questions. We may not ask it at the same point in the intake, but it is the 5 core questions that are answered.
Great. Thank you. That's wonderful. So thank you very much, Jennifer and Cindy, for sharing all of your practices today. And I think there's a lot of food for thought here as we move into breakout rooms for all of you to connect with each other, questions that you might have. Alex, I don't know if you wanted to advance the next slide. We'll have about 10 minutes or so in our breakout rooms, hopefully a little longer. And we just had some questions for all of you to think about when you're connecting. What is your process for developing protocols amongst partners? What protocols have been most challenging for you? And how do you train your core and external partners on ADRC protocols? So lots more to unpack. And Mylene, if you could start our breakout rooms, we'll come back and reconvene and just share some additional thoughts at the end, but wanted to give you this time. Thank you. Okay, and we'll wait to see when people are back. Mylene, did they give a countdown? I think it's probably about a minute. Is that right?
I don't see the countdown right now.
It says 29 seconds.
Great, thank you. Okay, perfect. Welcome back. Hello. Wait a few more seconds here because I think other breakout rooms are rejoining. How's everyone doing? Are we now in the way of lunch? So welcome back, everyone. I think all the breakout rooms have joined. Just before we wrap up today, I just wanted to see if any of the breakout rooms have anything they want to share, thoughts from your conversation. Please feel free, you can put it in chat or just unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Rosie, and I'm from ADRC Bureau. I just wanted to direct people to the chat. There's a website that our group talked about just at the end called findhelp.org. We had a participant ask questions about where to find resources, and we had another ADRC partner suggest this website, and I'm not sure if CSLA ADRC can explain the website a little bit more for us.
Yeah, I learned this system or platform was at once called Big Bertha, which was a huge informational system, but it didn't really function as people needed, and it wasn't updated as it should be. So it was redone over 3 years. And in that 3 years, they made a user-friendly platform where you can not only find assistance from clothing to IHSS services to nutrition, everything, doctors, everything, with just typing in your zip code. But it also enables people who are helping someone to keep track of who they're helping, and also log notes, track the resources that have already been, accessed so that they don't duplicate them. It's a wonderful, very user-friendly platform.
Thank you for sharing.
You. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Anyone else have a couple additional thoughts? There's some good questions in chat. Joe, PSA 10, thank you for asking about training. We'll see if there's some that come up from that. Maggie, sounds like, sorry, go ahead. Is there another question?
Go ahead.
Oh, hi, it's Lilybeth.
Hi, Lilybeth.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. From the South
South
Central.
Yeah, Central South.
The Central South,
Yeah.
ADRC. We had a staff meeting yesterday, and one of the things we were just thinking about was, now that we're opening up post-COVID, I think it's really useful, at least from where we are now, to have more conversations with our not just our extended partners, but with our allies, our allied organizations or professionals, because now we will be having a lot more. We're expecting a lot more people coming from the woodwork, asking for a lot of other things, because they've been sequestered for a long time and getting their feet wet once again out in the open. I think it would be good because and also with people coming over, sometimes ILCs and ADRCs, we don't have enough staff to, especially to address seniors. And there's a big technological gap there.
Something happened.
So, and with what do they call those senior centers? The day programs.
Day programs, yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice to have more of that, right? More cross-pollination, not just also beyond our partners and extended partners.
Hopefully you guys heard that.
We did. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Also, a lot of great topics you just brought up for future roundtables. So yeah, that's great. We did a COVID series last year, and so we may want to revisit some of those topics in future roundtables. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know we're running out of time here. I just want to wrap up first by thanking our speakers, Cindy and Jennifer, and for sharing all of what you do. And I hope that you all had some more learning opportunities in your breakout rooms today. We are going to have a roundtable in April on the 29th at 12 o'clock. So please mark your calendars and look out for an invitation from that. We have one final poll just to see how things went for you today. We always appreciate your feedback. So I will hand it over to Alex to read the questions. And then once you've answered, please just feel free to log off. But it's been great to see you all today, and thank you for your participation.
Thank you, Amanda. For our poll number 2, the first question is, overall, how would you rate the quality of this session? Excellent, very good, good, fair, or poor. The second question is, what type of format would you like to see more of in these roundtables? More open discussion time, more breakout room time, more local partner ADRC presentations, or okay as is?
Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Cindy and Jennifer. We'll look forward to seeing you all in April. There's some additional questions that have come through. So if we're able to connect you with the right resources, we will send you individual emails after this. But thank you all. Appreciate seeing you, and have a good rest of your day.
And I am ending the poll.